national team that you played with for ages, but it's just when you get down, it's almost like a second row bind. You don't have to tell them how you want to go, because you've been through that, you know that. So all you're doing then is focusing on what it is you've got to do, and you're not worrying about who's next to you, thinking about your right shoulder. Remember, lean away from the ball. I used to say that all the time, particularly with Steve Thompson. I know that was with England, but he used to lean towards the ball as he was hooking the ball, and then that immediately puts a huge feel. His right shoulder's leaving my left shoulder, so as a tight end prop, you're suddenly exposed to a huge amount of pressure. I used to say to him all the time, lean away from the ball, keep that right shoulder down, help me out. So it's little things like that. I know it sounds trivial, but in the heat of the moment, and particularly if you think about like a Tag Furlong at the weekend, who's playing with someone, James, who's not used to, those combinations take a little while. You have to get quite tight quite early and get to grips with each other. And actually, as a unit, I think they function.
I'm gutted that Phil's just done that answer on radio, not TV. People at home won't realise he had his eyes closed. He was fully binding up. The vein on his head was starting to pop out. He was just back in the day.
It was brilliant. I have to say that this is probably one of the most, in a way for me, one of the most closed shops in terms of selection.
Well,
you put them out from the second, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, if you were Jamie George, and that was the combination you were given, and I think Furlong, for me, before the tour, was probably a likely starter.
Yeah.
Given the end, given the year he's had.
To be honest.
And Mako, probably. So really, it came down to Hooker, and I think with Rory, unfortunately, his line-out throw was the thing that always seemed to count against it, which, by the way, makes Ireland fans irate.
I think, well, yeah, exactly. But I don't think it is just down to that. I think he probably did have that's probably going to be my starting team. I think he thought the bench was probably going to be his starting bench, and actually Cole's dropped out of that and Sinclair's come in because of his performances. So
his running game's good, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think, had Jamie George had a shocker in the first game, or a couple of quiet performances, he might have been pulled out of that. But you have to try and gamble on who you think you're going to keep together, so that what Phil was just talking about works.
Jamie George, when you think, we're sat here talking about him coming from England, he's not even the first choice England player, regardless of whether the captaincy and the leadership groups and that kind of thing. I think that guy has to have a huge amount of credit, because the way he's played and conducted himself, I don't think there's any supporter could argue he's not been by far and away the best hooker.
And a massive positive for Saracens, the way they've developed him, because he has got that opportunity, because he has won 2 Champions Cups. He's won Premiership titles, so they know that he can do it on the big stage.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because sometimes players are defined by their sometimes players' careers are defined by their Lions tours, and actually, you look at the selection of Tio, you look at the selection of Jamie George, players that were kind of fringe of England at the beginning of last season, or not even, there for the first call-up yet.
Well, we all knew that Jason Robertson's going to make it, but he only really first made it on